Now, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's big message on terrorism. In fact, he goes on to speak and says that conspirators of 26/11 still unpunished. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, as he took the stage to speak on countering terrorism, he says that 26/11 conspirators remain protected. They still are unarrested. UNSC unable to act due to political considerations. Must hold terrorists accountable. Here's S. Jaishankar as he speaks to counter terrorism and the UNSC anti-terror meet that's scheduled in India. While S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister, takes to the stage and speaks on how 26/11 conspirators are still unpunished and that they remain protected. UNSC unable to act due to political considerations, must hold terrorists accountable. These are words of the External Affairs Minister. Let's take a listen.
The key conspirators and planners of the 26/11 attacks continue to remain protected and unpunished. When it comes to proscribing some of these terrorists, the Security Council has regrettably been unable to act in some cases because of political considerations. This undermines our collective credibility and our collective interests. The coming together of the UNSC's Counter-Terrorism Committee to this venue is both special and significant. I thank all members of the Security Council and other member states who have joined us today in an expression of solidarity. Together, we should send out the message that the international community will never give up on holding terrorists accountable and delivering justice. 26/11 will never, ever be forgotten.
All right, let me quickly cut across to defense expert Sushant Sareen joining us. Sushant, we heard what External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had to say, speaking extensively on how 26/11 will never be forgotten. He says those perpetrators, conspirators are yet unpunished. They're being protected and the UNSC is finding it hard to pull them to account due to political compulsions. What's your take on that?
Well, I think he pressed all the right buttons and he spoke what we might call the brutal truth. The fact remains that everybody, pays homage to fighting terrorism, but when it actually comes to taking action, then you have countries like China which stands with the terrorists, which actually provide covering fire to the terrorists, which provides cover to them, which prevents any kind of even procedural action against them. And then, of course, you have countries like Pakistan, which actively sponsor and support terrorists. And the rest of the world doesn't really bother too much about terrorism as long as it does not affect them. Unfortunately, what has started happening is that terrorism is now something which happens to you, but then it's terrorism, but if it happens to somebody else, it's not terrorism. We've seen that attitude in the West. We've seen how, separatist movements like the Khalistanis are winged at, nudged, ignored by some of these Western countries, and in some cases also encouraged. And we know how violent this movement has been in the past. We know how much blood has been shed in the past by these guys. But you talk to these supercilious people in the West, and they will pretend that they are protecting civil liberties and freedom of speech. And all this, it certainly prevents the war on terror from going to the logical conclusion. So you have that problem of people saying something but not actually following it up in their actions. And I suppose this is what the External Affairs Minister has been alluding to today. But I think it is entirely, within India's responsibility to keep agitating this matter, to not forget this matter, and in fact to bring in some of the other egregious acts of terrorism that have been committed in the past in India. You had similar casualties in India in the various train bombings that have taken place, again with very clear Pakistani fingerprints. You have the perpetrators of the the Mumbai bomb attacks in '93, still living in comfort and in luxury in Pakistan. So you have these various instances. While we should keep agitating the 2611 cases, I don't think we should forget some of the other horrific acts of terrorism which have come from across the border into India. And also not forget some of the smaller incidents of terrorism, but given the sheer quantum of them, for example, in Jammu and Kashmir, where thousands of people have been killed by Pakistani terrorists, I think all of those should continuously be agitated. We should continuously make a lot of noise about it. And we should not let these go, simply because, like the Supreme Court of India has said that something happened 30 years back, so what if it was a genocide? We can't reopen those cases. We should reopen all cases of this kind of murder and
Right.
which terrorists have done.